The Secret Lives of Dentists is a movie about a happy marriage. It's just going through a rough spot, this series of scenes. We're seeing mostly from inside Dave's head. The character Slater is clearly enough a projection of something in Dave. Something, I suppose, in many of us at some times. A voice that keeps telling us not to put up with frustrations, to speak our mind, to find out the truth, to quit biting our tongues.
You have your own.
Honey, you have a plate full of your own food.
Hers is better.
No, they're both the same.
Yep.
Who did?
Still?
Mandy's going to a different camp this summer.
Oh, she is? Which one?
I forget.
Well, we'll have to find out.
Yeah, that's small enough. You can eat that.
I don't like it.
Eat it anyways.
I don't want it.
Eat it anyway.
I don't want it.
Hey! Look at me. Look at me.
Where's the booze?
Guess what? I'm putting you to bed. You understand me?
No! I
Cry if you want. Cry all you want. Cry until you're an old woman who won't be soon enough as far as I'm concerned.
Daddy's so mad.
Stay there. Hear me? Be quiet!
Attaboy.
Dave. Dave,
That would be you, buddy.
What?
you don't need to shout at her like that.
Well, somebody has to. Do all the work around here half the time anyway.
Everything gets more fucked up every day, doesn't it?
It's more fucked up every day.
Would you like to tell us what you're so angry about?
I'm not angry.
Killer. I would.
It's true, everything's more fucked up every day.
You know, you've always said that, Dave, and I hate it when you say
I've
that.
not always said it. I just thought of it.
Girls, you're excused.
No, you're not. Stay where you are. Admit it. Admit that every day is worse.
No!
It is.
I don't believe that.
Admit it. I could kill you.
What did you just say to me?
What? I didn't say anything.
You said you could kill me?
I didn't mean to say that.
But you thought it? You thought you could kill me?
One crack. Right between the eyes.
You can't control your thoughts. A person can think anything they want. But you mustn't act on every thought that you have. Right? I'm gonna go out for a little while. Excuse me.
So, the scene that we saw right at the beginning of this clip, this is from section 14 on your summary. When Slater there in the background of the kitchen says, "Where's the booze?" What he would like to do, that is, what that part of Dave would like to do, is to simply lash out. And he later finds himself saying out loud the words that this part of his thought has been talking to him about. When Slater says, "Kill her, I would," and then later, just a little bit later, Dave actually says to his wife, Dana, "Admit that every day is worse." And then he whispers under his breath, but loud enough that they hear him, "I could kill you." And then he has this comic interchange where he turns to his daughters and says, "Now, of course, you can't act on all of your thoughts." The movie is trying to capture, through this character of Slater, the way that the practical commitment of marriage continues through a kind of internal commentary that expresses all sorts of frustrations and wayward desires about how you could make this marriage come to an end, or make it more convenient, or take control of it. A voice that, for the most part, Dave resists. Dave resists it and does things that make him look like, after all, a pretty nice guy. Certainly a very caring, a very nurturing father. So there's a gap opened up between Dave's mind, or at least that part of his mind, the Slater part of his mind, that sometimes would find it convenient for his wife to disappear, to be dead. A gap opens up between that part of Dave's mind and the part of him that controls his external actions.
My father always said, if you're mad, whatever you do, don't get in the car.
Fuck him. He was a jerk.
Yes, he was.
Go upstairs, girls.
We're upset about something, aren't we, Dave?
I wish my wife loved me.
How do you know she doesn't?
I wish she would look at me with desire instead of regret.
Yeah. Who is he? When does she see him? Well, how do you know he even exists?
It's just a feeling.
Feeling.
I saw the back of his head. He's probably the music director. She sees him whenever she can, a few minutes here or there. There's nothing too tangible.
Well, why don't you just come right out and ask her?
Because if she tells me she loves him, then we have to do something about it.
Ah, yeah, that's right.
But if I let her go through it, work out whatever it is she needs to do, then maybe I can save my marriage.
Wait.
Look, I'm sorry, but I don't consider you a reliable source on the subject of marriage, okay?
Fair enough. But why isn't she leaving you then? I mean, if she is seeing somebody, and personally speaking, I'd rather know one way or the other, but you know what? Maybe he rejected her. Did you ever think about that? Huh? I mean, he's just messing around, he's having fun, and that's why she's staying, because otherwise she'd get the hell out of there. I mean, not that she's a willful bitch or such a willful bitch, but... Dave? Are we leaving? See you back at the house.
I'm scared of the things I think of when night comes along. Something gets hold of me, something I can't see. Oh, it's a wicked world. Oh, it's once a young girl's bear. Oh, I need somebody to hold me in the fading light of this coming night.
Can't go in there, Maxine. Why not? Dr. Margot said so.
Hey.
Is he all right? Yes, he's just fainted.
I love you.
Yeah, I know.
Dr. Markov was the only man who could cure Dave.
Throughout this movie, over and over again, Dave refuses to have a certain conversation with his wife. He refuses to have the conversation in which he says, or in which she says, I'm having an affair. I love someone else. And as he tells us a number of times in the movie, particularly in this scene when he drives away and the Slater voice comes to him, he tells us why he refuses to let that conversation happen. Maybe the most comical way he refuses to have that conversation is when they go up to the country house. And his wife, Dana, gets there much, much later in the middle of the night. Much later than she was expected. And Dave is actually hiding out on the porch. And when she calls him, he doesn't answer. And the reason he doesn't answer is that she has a look on her face like she has resolved to tell him that she's fallen in love with somebody else. So he suppresses that conversation. He does not allow it to happen. He continues not allowing it to happen by, first of all, getting up early in the morning and making her breakfast, so when she comes down he can put her breakfast on, give her a quick kiss and run outside. As she said, Dave, Dave. She wants to talk to him about something. He quickly gets into his little garage and jumps on his lawnmower and drives it around so he can do something actively manly that prevents him from needing to have the conversation that might destroy his marriage. He even gets out a leaf blower and blows mud. There's nothing there to blow. But creating that noise prevents that conversation. There's a scene earlier on in the movie when Dave and Dana have gone to bed, and Dana starts to have that conversation with him. He makes no response. He's turned away from her. And Dana says, "Dave, are you asleep?" We see that his eyes are open, but he doesn't make any response. And so Dana gives it up and thinks that he is asleep. So then finally, in that scene that we saw here, when the Slater voice in him, the voice that wants confrontation, the voice that wants to punish his wife, the voice that wants to assert its masculinity, that voice has broken through, and he said to his wife, with hardly even knowing it, "I could kill you." And then he gets in his car and he drives away. And then he, with a certain amount of help from Slater, gives vent to this murderous thought about his wife. It's Slater who turns to him and says, "Well, personally, I would want to know." This is in section 15 of the movie summary. "Personally speaking, I'd rather know one way or the other," says Slater. The Slater voice in this movie is a representative of the point of view that showed up, I'd say, on 4 out of 5 response cards. In response to Luann Arsenault going to confess her adultery to a priest rather than going home to spill the beans to Ted. The desire to know in this movie is a very complicated thing, because in a sense Dave does know. What Dave suppresses is not exactly his knowledge. It's the Slater-like response to the thoughts. Is this a successful strategy, or is this an example of a man who's a passive, aggressive, pathetic spectacle? Is he living out his marriage vow, for better, for worse, till death? Or is he, in fact, accepting something that strips him of his manhood? As he drives home after abandoning the Slater voice, but only for a little while, it always shows up. As he's driving home, he keeps picturing his wife Dana with a succession of other men and a few women. He can't, in his thought, escape from his suspicions. But yet when he gets home and he climbs the stairs, what he says to his wife is, "I love you." Her response is perhaps not as enthusiastic as he might have liked, but he's trying to preserve something. And the cost of that preservation for him is the cost of resisting something that within the movie is encoded in Slater. That person who says what he feels and what he thinks, who lets his thought flow immediately and authentically into his action, who isn't constrained into this tight box of respectability. There's something in Dave that frustrates us in the same way that the kind of talk that diplomats have frustrates us. To take an example that's been in the news recently, when a group of British sailors are captured and brought to Iran and then are paraded around to make confessions. I think a lot of observers don't want to hear diplomatics speak about that. They don't want all of the codes of international diplomacy about how serious the situation is or about the gravity of it. They'd prefer a much more direct and Slater-like language of condemnation, of assertion, rather than of indirection. They don't want to buy time by being diplomatic. They want, if not war, they want warlike words. Dave is tempted to lose his discretion with his wife. We see him break down in the one scene where his murderous desires come into the dinner table. But he's struggling. He's struggling because he doesn't think that his marriage is worth the price of truth. He thinks if he can put up with this moment, with this episode of marital sickness, eventually the fever will go down and the family can be repaired. But if he is too quick to assert himself and to make accusations, however he may feel at that moment, he might cause an irreparable breach. So that the story of the sickness moving through this family, of the flu, is in part too a story of the sickness, of the threat, whether it was ever completely real or not, it's hard to tell, the threat of infidelity moving through this marriage. A certain strategy of response. There's a scene a bit later in the movie after Dave and Dana are completely exhausted taking care of their 3 sick children. Yeah, this is number 21 on the movie summary, if you go back to it. Slater has one of his more memorable lines. After Lizzie, the big girl, she's 10, has gotten sick on the floor before she goes upstairs. And then the little girl wanders into the puke. And Slater, sitting there on the stairs eating potato chips, looks over at her and he starts to call to Dave. He says, "Dave, the midget." He says, "Ah, she walked in the puke." Anybody who's been married for a sufficiently long time has had their children do that. If not that exact thing, things every bit as bad. It's a very striking moment about how your practical love sometimes has to push through your thoughts. That Slater voice is telling Dave to do something very different from what he ends up doing. A little bit later in that same scene, Slater says about the children, "These children should be struck." And it would be a rare parent who hadn't had that Slater voice from time to time. But when Dave and Dana sort of collapse on the bed to get a little bit of rest before the next child is retching again, Dana says to Dave, "Well, at least you're feeling better." And Dave says something like, "Well, I'm not sure that's anything to be optimistic about." And Dana is exasperated with him and says, "Why are you always so pessimistic?" And then they have this little exchange where Dave says, "As long as this lasts, let's avoid talking about how we always are. And Dana says no sarcasm either. So she agrees. Let's avoid talking about how we always are, as long as this lasts, this crisis physically of the flu. But the movie sets us up to run in parallel the question of the practical responsiveness of parenthood to physical sickness in a household, with the practical responsiveness of spouses to spiritual sickness in their marriage. As long as this lasts, let's avoid talking about how we always are. Let's let this crisis, let's let it be the exception, and let us not project it into the future and the past as the thing that's always the case. In its way, this suppression of the present, this refusal to let the present be the model of the always, this refusal of conversation, this is Dave's strategy for making himself the kind of man who can forgive. Is your marriage worth the price of truth? At the end of the movie, Dave explicitly tells his wife he doesn't want to know the truth about where she's been the previous night. The only question he asks her is she staying? And the only way he can remain the kind of man who can accept her answer that yes, she is staying, is by refusing to demand a certain kind of knowledge from her. This movie, then, is a kind of anti-Othello. It's a movie in which the male character is presented to us in some comic ways as someone rather deficient in manliness. And all one can say by the end of the movie is that that deficiency is what has allowed him to stay living in a house with his children and with his wife. After my lecture about Luann Arsenault, last class, a student slipped me a note anonymously and wanted to know, would I want my wife to tell me, or would I want to tell my wife? I'm not sure, but I do notice that the star of this movie is Dr. Dave. See you next time.